a young boy came up to me and showed me a ring he had found. It was spooky. I told him to give it to the lifeguard. This vacation had given me a dose of realism, both magical and social.
Wow. It's a good story, Mustafa. Thanks for sharing that. Did you want some feedback?
Yeah, definitely.
So when I think about stories and writing this draft, I like to think of it in 3 different parts. Owning your insight, owning your emotion, and finding the moment. Now, let's start with that first piece, owning your insight.
Yeah.
And if you think about it, that's basically, why are you telling the story and why now? And what does it mean? And it's not necessarily the obvious that being almost mugged in the DR. I want you to dig deeper into that and sort of tell us more about you. And one thing that might help you think about that is the idea of change in the story,
Mm-hmm.
how you were before and after an event or events. And that change is what the audience will also connect with, and they'll learn from you and you will learn from them. So I think it's a powerful piece of this process, is owning that insight, the change.
Yeah.
So, I noticed you mentioned in that first line that you're first generation Turkish.
Yeah.
I think there's more to that you could dig into there. It's just a suggestion. What do you think?
Well, I thought about that too, because it seems to me that the change is all about not feeling so good about being in a foreign country and worrying about being mugged. But when you say change, then I think, okay, well, there's this huge change in terms of me growing up Turkish in America and now going to the Dominican Republic to look at these other cultures. Maybe I should think about some kind of a change regarding me and my culture, and then the Dominican culture, and then this whole idea of looking at culture.
Yeah, I think that's a good place to start to dig deep into you, you the storyteller. Which kind of segues into the next piece of this is owning that emotion.
Mm-hmm.
And you might think about, as you're retelling this, how do you feel in certain parts of your story? How do you feel? And if you can be honest with us and you can be aware of what that is,
mm-hmm.
that your audience is really going to connect with you with that emotion.
Emotion.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, because right now the only emotion I really have is no longer
Right.
feeling carefree. So I guess if I think about my childhood, there's a lot of painful memories there. And here I am looking at people going through their own painful experiences in the Dominican Republic. Maybe I should find a way to relate those two struggles.
Connect them together.
Yeah.
Yeah, that'll be really powerful. And just to sort of wrap up this, is that there's the third piece of this is finding the moment. And I think you have a great moment in there where you're almost robbed. I mean, that's scary. So I think that's good to keep that in, and I want you to show me more.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're talking about connecting yourself to that moment, there may be another moment that happens that could connect the two together.
Well, if I'm going to deepen the involvement of myself in the story and my own background, then I should find a moment from my background, from my growing up Turkish. And there's definitely some moments I can think of right now as I think about my childhood and some of the struggles I went through.
Yeah. In the word of caution I would give you is that you show us, don't tell us about it. Use all your senses. Use, you did use dialogue, so we can hear what's happening.
Yeah.
We can see it. We can feel it. We can smell it. We can taste it. All those things make a rich story in that moment.
Okay. So what I'll do is I'll go back and I'll sort of find some moments and give them some flesh, some detail.
Definitely.
And then maybe I can relocate the moment so that it's more engaging with the audience. I'll give it a shot.
Sounds good.
Okay, thanks.
Cool.
There's a price to pay from being seen or unseen, and it depends on what side of the camera you are on.
Wow. That's a much more effective story, Mustafa. That's really good. It's great. I really saw you come out in that story, and I could connect with you in that. It was furthermore, the transformation was there. It had that beginning, middle, and end that you want in a good story, a great story. You know what? Also, I noticed is that your first draft was, a little bit longer, over 300 words, and this one's under. It's like 250, I think. So that idea of economy, being mindful in what you're choosing for the words, is evident in what you've written there.
Right.
Well, how did you feel about this?
Well, you told me that I should be a little bit more my story. I should own the insight. So I downplayed the analysis I was making, and instead I brought in some painful experiences from my early childhood, and that was my defining moment that I started with. And it's much more emotional, and I think the audience will probably connect with it better. And the realization I made is that the other defining moment is almost being mugged, and then connecting those two, and realizing that my transformation and change is that I can't take people for granted in another country when I take photographs of them, and that I have to think about my own childhood and the struggles I went through. So that was the big change for me, and that's why I think for me it's a much more powerful story.
Yeah, this is going to be a great digital story when you start to get these pictures together, and sounds and music that you might want to put in too. It's going to be great.
Thanks a lot. Appreciate the feedback.
Cool.